There's a fundamental truth that it took me a while to understand, and that is that you cannot be a good man without being a dangerous man. And I'll tell you what I mean. Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today we're gonna cut up some logs at the sawmill, make some nice lumber that hopefully we can build something out of. And while we do that, I'm gonna give you so many pearls of wisdom and so many deep thoughts that you may need a pair of muck boots just to make it through this video. Now, before we do any of that, I want to deal with these bass I have in a cooler right behind me. So if you guys haven't been following along, the story with this is I'm trying to restock my pond a little bit and add some more predators to it. There was some kind of miscommunication where I thought I was getting some big predator bass that were gonna thin down the overgrowth of perch. And when I got there, what I ended up with was 2-inch fingerlings, if they're even 2-inch. These things are smaller than a bait minnow, and I've been trying to decide what to do with them. I've kept them in this cooler for a week now, and I can't grow these bass out in a cooler, or even if I bought an aquarium, I couldn't really grow them out properly. It would take a lot of time and care to try to get them big enough to put in here. And I've also dug the koi pond, and I don't think I can really put them in there because I've got goldfish and koi in it. And I kind of think one of two things. Either they're going to get eaten in this pond, or they're going to beat up the fish, the goldfish in that other pond, and bully them. So really no good answer to it. So what I'm going to do is just let the circle of life do what it does. And by that I mean bass spawn in this pond already. Half of the fish get eaten, half of them are good hiders and they make it through. And my 25 bass is already down to about probably 18 to 20 because they're dying in this cooler. So I'm just going to put them in here and hopefully some of them make it. But if they don't, they were slightly overpriced feeder fish for the stock that's in here. So let's acclimate them a little bit and get them in here. And then we'll get into the meat of today's video. And I think it's gonna be a good one, so stick around. Before we get too far along, I figure I ought to at least tell you what I'm planning to talk about here, give you a little summary. And I'll start by telling you what this is not. It's not a rant on transgenderism or the LGBTQ, whatever. It's not about that. What this is about is what a man is supposed to be like and what his role in society should be. And you can be 1,000 different things and live 1,000 different kind of lives and still be upholding what I'm talking about. But mostly what I listen to and watch on YouTube is not other people doing what I'm doing. I watch some of that, but I watch a lot of things like Jordan Peterson or advice on living. And I try to internalize it and, you know, find the truth there for me. And that's what this is about. I think that when the role of men in society weakens and the understanding of what a man's supposed to be, that society is not going to prosper. And I think that's kind of where we're headed, and if not where we're at. So if you don't want to hear my thoughts on that, come back tomorrow, we'll run a tractor. But right now, I need to get these bass taken care of. Let me show you what it looks like in here, because there's no filter. I've ran an aerator in this and I've been feeding them. So they're in this little pot with no filter. It's a miracle any of them survived. Well, I have a feeling with that glare that you didn't see anything in that tote. But to acclimate the fish, to give them the best chance, I need to mix their nasty water with this better water from the pond. But I need to do it slowly, because if being in there like that has raised the pH to a near deadly level, and then you put in water with a healthy pH, you can kill them immediately. So we're gonna just add a little water at a time. There's one bucket full. That should be like a breath of fresh air in a smoky room for them. I'm gonna wait about a minute, sit here and just watch the beauty and grandeur of nature out here. We've got birds chirping, frogs jumping in the water, a light sprinkling rain, that old tree stump that I threw in the pond. I just cannot get enough of sitting out here and just watching nature unfold in this little farm pond. Oh, bucket number 3. Probably about 6 or 8 buckets like this, and it'll be as much pond water as it is muck in this cooler. But I guess, since it's taking me a long time to fill this, with waiting in between each scoop, I'll give a couple more of the thoughts that are gonna permeate this video. And one of them is about feminism. So, it's hard to say without being offensive, but you know, women are amazing. There are a lot of ways that a woman is more powerful and capable than a man. Like, I could not have accomplished what my wife has as well as she has with our children and just everything about her. Obviously, I'm not talking about giving birth, I'm talking about raising the children. And women are amazing, and they can do, if they want to, they can do everything a man can do. But I think there's a truth out there that is being ignored in modern culture, and that is that most women, if you really get down to it, a lot of women would feel more contentment from the things that are traditional roles for women. So if a woman wants to pursue a career, then she should be able to, she should be equally paid, she should have every access and right to do that. But I also think that a man should try to give her the option to focus all her energy on raising children and keeping a home, and that he should try to provide for her so that she can do what she wants to do. Because I think that's what men are built for. It's what brings us satisfaction, being able to do that. And that's an unpopular opinion today, but it's my opinion, so I'm saying it. Here's an example. Nursing. Men can provide medical care. They can know how to do everything a nurse does. But I think women just have a more natural heart for that. It's why mainly women do the nursing work. It's important work. We have to have people providing that care, and it's in their nature more. It's why they lean more that way. Doesn't mean a man can't be a great nurse, and it doesn't mean a woman can't be a carpenter. But if you want to find true joy in your life, you need to lean towards what you're programmed for, what you're built for, and what really makes you content. There's a lot more to it though than just what you choose to do and what fits your personality. There's also a big aspect of the importance of physical work for just the health and well-being of a man. You cannot be a healthy, happy, well-adjusted man, in my opinion, if you don't put in some physical work. Your mood is affected by your hormones, and which are affected by your stress level, which is affected by... Nothing is a better stress reducer than just getting out and doing some work. And that's an area that I could really use some improvement in. And we're going to do it today. Now, I would say that from the minute I took these bass off of that truck, their odds of survival were pretty dismal. I don't know why they even sell them that small unless it's a completely unstocked brand new pond. What would you want with bass that small? But I've tried to transition them gently acclimate them to the water, and now they're on their own. Wish you luck, boys. You know what's funny is I just unintentionally made a really strong metaphor for raising children that once I found myself with them, I didn't know how to take care of them or how to keep them alive. I completely messed it up. You know, it's a miracle they made it. Then I tried to acclimate them to their new surroundings, and then just throw them out there and you get what you get. So there's a fundamental truth that it took me a little while to understand, and that is that you cannot be a good man without first being a dangerous man. And at first I didn't understand it. It kind of registered with me, but not fully, that it's okay to be humble and gentle and kind. Those are all traits we should all strive for, whether you're a man or a woman. But you can't be kind without first being dangerous. Because there are people in the world who are not kind. And there needs to be a strength in society that is able to stand up to that and say no. So, being dangerous does not mean being violent or aggressive necessarily. It means having a certain strength of character, physical strength, a determination, and a willingness to do what's necessary. And that manifests itself in a lot of different forms. So let's look a little deeper at what it means to be a dangerous man. So on one very practical level, it means you need to be a threat to anyone who encroaches on your freedom and liberty, or the freedom and liberty of the people around you. So a very obvious situation. Let's say you're out in a public place and you see someone come up and just try to grab a kid and kidnap them. You need to be able to step in and stop that. That's one level of being dangerous. And that applies to, in general, protecting your family and your property from anyone who tries to encroach on that. But also, let's say there's no imminent physical danger. That doesn't mean that the people around you don't need protection. And that can come in a lot of forms. And I would describe a dangerous man as being unafraid, or unafraid's a bad term. We're supposed to be afraid. It's an alert mechanism to tell us when something's not right. But a dangerous man will be willing to confront something he's afraid of. Another characteristic of a truly dangerous man is that he's educated. Ideally, he has skills and resources that he can tap into to make things happen. Because you may not be fighting off a burglar to protect the people around you. You might be going to a school board meeting and giving a speech about what you think is important and being neglected in that school. So essentially, you need to be a threat, but not just a physical threat. You need to be a threat and someone to be reckoned with if your rights are being encroached upon. And I can promise you something, a woman will be drawn to that strength. If you show strength, a woman will respect it and be drawn to it. So as I talk about all of this, I talk about it not from a place of strength, for lack of a better term, but from a place of seeking the truth and trying to represent what I believe in. And, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have even believed what I'm saying right now, because I had the mindset more of a pacifist, and like, everyone's good, everything is good, just leave people alone and you'll be fine. But there are times when that doesn't work. There have been all of human history has been a time where it's not okay to just sit back and allow the status quo to dictate. So that's one aspect of it, is we need dangerous men in the world who will stand up when it's needed. As I was focusing what I wanted to say, I didn't do a very good job of placing this log in the right place. And obviously I can roll it where it needs to be forward and backward, but it actually needs to be further that way because there's a small end and a big end. And I need to raise the big end, or I need to raise the small end just a little bit with the jack to level this out to get a good yield off the log. I'm no expert on milling, but I'm learning as I go. And I tell you, nothing gives me more satisfaction than learning a new skill that is practical and useful. And a couple years ago, I really didn't even know how to cut down a tree, let alone mill it into lumber. But now, I've found so much enjoyment on learning a little bit about it. And on a practical sense, if the economy goes crazy, I can mill lumber to make things for myself or an income for my family or a number of other things. And I think that pursuit of knowledge for me is what gives me meaning in life. Trying to build something, trying to learn something, and trying to teach and protect those around me. That's what gives meaning to my life. And I think it's why I love this channel so much, because it's just documenting a journey. Anyway, I could pick this up and move it, but I'm going to see if I can just slide it down. It needs to go about this far. Right here is my jack. I want to get the end of this log on it with just sheer brute strength. We're going to make this about manliness. There needs to be something said about grunting. Unnecessary grunts and groans. Let people know how hard you're working. Now we'll get our log stops in here. I'm having a hard time deciding which way I want to turn this log. As a general rule, if you have a bow in it, like this one does, you want the bow in the center to be up. Another factor is that you can't have knobs sticking out that way because the distance between the stops and the edge of the throat on the saw head is small. So you really don't want knots coming out that direction. I had no idea how much bow was really in this. That's pretty extreme, actually. See if I can scoot it back without rolling. Woodland Mills has a new product that goes on here, lays across this track. Then you put your cant hook in it and allows you to get leverage, so that right now to pull this back, I don't really have a good way to leverage to push it. As I let out my primal scream as I shove this little log down about 6 inches, brings up another point that I think is valid, which is there is a certain need for aggressive activity from a man that I think needs to be fostered in young boys. I think boys need to be allowed to play aggressively, even if that's a little bit of fighting or wrestling, because they need to have a way to get that aggression out. And it seems like society's teaching boys that aggressiveness is bad. And it's not. It's a critical part of you that's built into you for your own survival. Because for most of human history, if you couldn't hunt something, kill it, and cook it, you didn't eat. I think I see where some of this bow is coming from. These are the parts with these little twisted logs that I'm learning a lot about. It really matters how you place it on the stand. See, we've got a knot here sticking down, and we've got one over here sticking down. That knot is right on this beam, which lifts this into the log up, which makes it hard to center the log up properly and get it level. So if I can shove it a little further so that this knot drops off of this beam, I think it'll cut better. We're definitely getting another ugga-dugga on this one. Captain Caveman! This log may not yield anything. There's a good 4 inches under that log. If it doesn't produce a yield, I'll just burn it in the fire pit. And then I'll know more than I did yesterday about milling bowed logs. This bowed log is going to do one of two things. And I kind of take a little bit of criticism for the way I handle this piece right here. Half of the length of the log, and this one I think I messed up. It actually could still be fixed, but I don't know if I will. So half of the length of this log, I cut off nothing, or a third of the length. Down here I cut off an appropriate amount, but up here I've cut off 4 inches of the log. That there's a short 2x4 in here. I think I need to do a better job of finding that 2x4 and getting it out of this. The problem with that is it requires you to do some edging. And I don't have a setup for edging. I have to build like a manual sled on the table saw. So the reason I don't get too excited about that is I like to watch Outdoors with the Morgans, and he's done comparisons, and where it seems like this wood is dramatically more valuable than firewood, he's done the math and demonstrated that it's really not that much different. You get a little bit more value out of the lumber. I want the lumber, but firewood is still valuable too, and this will be some nice chunks of firewood. But from a learning perspective, I want to learn how to use every inch of this. And once again, I didn't do it here. Now this isn't giving me much yield, not only because of the bow, but also because it was just small. I think this is a log that, or a tree, that ideally shouldn't have been cut down yet. But it was in the way of a process that was taking place, and meant it had to go. I think I need to raise my stops a little bit. This log's kind of getting the best of me, and part of this is because I've mounted my mill so high that it's hard to reach over it and get the clamps. It's easier to square the log up from here, but it's much easier to lock down your clamps from the other side. One thing I could do right now is have something like a wheel chalk, a triangular shape that I can use to press up against the log to hold it. Dun dun dun. So when I talk about the lost art of manhood here, say men need to know how to do things. For one reason that's obvious and another one that's not. First reason is because things need to get done. Society can't function if nobody builds roads and does electrical wiring and cleans out plumbing and mills lumber and cuts down trees. All that has to be done, and we can't become a society that doesn't do anything. The other thing is, a man needs to feel respected, and he needs to feel like he has accomplished something. And I think that's why boys play so many video games, because they can feel like they've accomplished something very quickly and easily, give them a dopamine response. But nothing happening in that game is real. I really think we'd be better off without them, but now I just sound like an old grouch. My buddy Brad at Piney Grove Homestead is a pretty manly man, fence building, tractor driving, field plowing kind of guy. Plays some Call of Duty. That's like an online video game where you shoot people. I don't know. So does any of this have a point? I'd say yeah. If you're under a lot of stress, because life's really stressful, and you're feeling down, or you think last week you decided that even though you're a man, you might actually be a woman, I think there's practical advice here. Is go outside without any gloves on and do something in the dirt, or build something. Or just take a walk in the woods and get out and do something. I'd say if the social sciences have proved anything, it's that children, especially boys, who grow up in a home without a strong male role model don't do very well. If you've overcome that, congratulations. But if you've got a chance, be that for somebody. Okay, so what purpose does this video serve? Or what point am I trying to make? I have no idea. The YouTube channel to me is not about teaching you something, and it's not about being an expert or having all the answers. This channel is showing who I am and seeing if people like to watch it. And this is who I am. This is what I'm thinking about this morning. So I had a lot of work to do today that is kind of boring for videos. Weed eating, stacking lumber. I wanted to mill some lumber. And I thought I could not make a video. I could make a video showing all that boring stuff, or I could tell you what's on my heart. And as I started working on stuff this morning, I was listening to Jordan Peterson, and I said, I want to share some of my favorite things that he has to say. And I hope you enjoyed it. I think you should go listen to Jordan Peterson because he says everything that I'm talking about in a much more effective manner. Anyway, I've made incremental improvement towards who I want to be today, and I hope you do the same. I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.